Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Good morning, everyone. For the love of Zaddy, and I want as people listen to this recording, I want you guys to think of the song "Yes, Bone Thugs" featuring Easy E for the love of money. Um, that's the song that first hit my mind when I rewatched this. So yes, I originally saw this when Phil Scott, shout out to the brother Phil Scott, when he first put this out months and months and months ago. But I have referenced this video a few times, so I wanted to actually make a dedicated video to this video. Um, and essentially say something, reiterate stuff that I've said before. I kind of wanted to speak new life into this, unfortunately. Yes, unfortunately. Um, and just remind us that women were colonized also. Women of color were colonized also. Women of color were enslaved also. Women of color were subject to grape by white men also, right? Women of color looked longingly at those mansions and those castles that they heard of back in Europe also, right? And actually, they probably, that in that respect they did it way more than the men of their own demographic. Now, why does this matter? Well, if you checked out the link in the description, you would see um Phil Scott, that's Phil from the Advice Show, formerly of the Advice Show, right? Speaking about this Asian young lady, speaking about how evil good-looking Asian men are, right? And so, you always see people complaining about Asian women with white men, and they just don't realize how evil attractive Asian men are, right? So yes, once again projecting, and this is, I guess, Asian women's way of projecting, much the same way oftentimes black women project. And you see Phil use the colorism, type of talk that oftentimes dark skinned black women use, and say, black men don't find black women, particularly dark skinned black women, attractive. And so that's why oftentimes you will see black women, particularly dark skinned black women, dating outside of their race. Now, as I've said before, train tracks, as I've said before, um, it's okay to date out, it's okay to marry out. But the reasons why people do this is very telling. And the reasons why people give for why they date out and why they marry out is very telling. The love is love thing is very telling. So, is it really love is love when we see a trend on who people prefer, right? When your demographics, 54% of them marry outside of the race, right? Particularly to white men. Is that love? When American born Asian women marry outside of their race at 54%, right? And the majority, the vast majority of that is to white men. Is that love? And it doesn't have to be love. Mr. Z understands what world and what country I live in. I understand, capitalism. I understand wanting a lifestyle. I understand the European beauty standards and concepts of masculinity and status, and being a woman of color that wants to be the person being seen holding the hands of the omnipotent, omniscient white man. I get it, right? I get it. But you could stop calling it anything. You could start, excuse me, calling it anything but love. Maybe love of position, maybe love of status, maybe love of attention, right? But love of the other human being, mm, right? Love, these people say, right? They say love. Is it truly, right? When Mr. Z is arguing is we haven't done a good enough job investigating how different ethnicities and race of women across the planet, how they have dealt with white supremacy around the planet, both emotionally, mentally, psychologically, right? How have women of color, different women of varying races and ethnicities, how have they potentially internalized white supremacy, right? And I would argue the reason why we are where we are currently is because women of color are playing a very crucial role in keeping this ideology alive, I'll say, right? Keeping this ideology alive. This woman said evil. These men of color are evil, she said. Evil. Now, I've said this before. What's very telling about these conversations is the way women go about speaking about it, right? They always couch it in victimhood. I date outside my race. I want to be married outside of my race, particularly to the white man, right? Particularly the white men. I want to be married outside my race because the men of my race, etc., etc., etc. Do you get some of that from men of color? Of course you do. Is it anything? Does it even compare to women of color? Of course not. Of course not. I want to be married outside of my race because etc., etc., something to do with how horrible the men of their race are, the men of their ethnicity, the men of their background. Mindy Kaling, this young lady, Chrissy, right? All of these women who find very interesting ways of just ending up right back on the white penis. What a coinkyding that these are the group of men that colonized the planet. What a coincidence that these are the men that so many women want to be with. Why they oftentimes rail against patriarchy, rail against white supremacy, rail against the European beauty standard. And then the first thing they want to do is get with the closest white man humanly possible. Right? Yeah. These people claim to be, intelligent and aware and air quotes woke and for female empowerment. And maybe that's what female empowerment always was. A way to empower yourself right next to the white man or right onto the white man. Right? Empower yourself to defend the white man's honor and his wealth and his position in on this planet, right? Defend the white man's position from your own men or men of your own race, your own background, your own ethnicity. Huh. What does feminism look like when women of color get a hold of it? Is that the goal, just to be a woman of color who's the colonizing agent of your community, of your ethnicity, of your race? And just find some way to blame men of your ethnicity, your race, your background for it? While you clamor for white penis? For white acceptance? Huh. Right. Maybe that's the goal. To be a black woman, a Latina woman, an Asian woman, an indigenous woman, being held up as the beauty standard by a bunch of white men. Because it doesn't count unless the white man calls you pretty. unless the white man calls you attractive, unless the white man calls you gorgeous, unless the white man compliments your intelligence, unless the white man calls you a woman or a lady. It doesn't count unless the white man says it. Are you truly beautiful if the white man ain't call you beautiful? Are you truly sexy if the white man ain't call you sexy? Are you truly a wife if the white man ain't put the ring on your finger? God damn, Mr. Z. Right? Huh. Maybe that's truly the issue. We haven't fully investigated, excuse me, we haven't fully investigated what white supremacy, white colonization, what white people going around the planet colonizing, what that has done to the way women of color see themselves, see men of their own ethnicity, background, race, creed, etc., etc. If women are the first teachers, if women are the child bearers, huh? What does it mean when you have just innumerable amount of women around the world who want nothing more than white validation, than being validated by white folks, by white men, by white men. And as the young man was saying, um, that Phil was reviewing his video with this young lady, the young Asian man was saying, um, so many women in the comments, confirmation bias, Asian women clapping it up for this young Asian woman. Of course, dear Asian dude, we see the same thing in the black community. Don't worry. One of these swirlers and divestors give their BS reason for worshiping at the altar of white penis, and there's going to be a whole lot of black women in the comments backing her up. Women of color, I said it before, y'all got to do better. Y'all got to come up with better answers than the internet. The internet, when Mr. Z says the internet will expose us all, I know when everybody first heard it, it sounded funny. What are you talking about? It sounds funny. No, these young people are straight up telling you the truth. These young women are straight up, they're not like their parents. They still using the victimhood talk. Yeah, they're using the victimhood talk. But between easily accessible data on the internet, between these young people being less coy, they just straight up telling you more and more, yeah, it's all about the white dude. Yeah. These young women are telling you it's all about the white dude. It's always been about the white dude. She didn't say date non-Asian. She didn't say date outside the pan-Asian community. She didn't say, she said white men. Right? It's all about the white penis and having some hopper babies, right? Or some mulatto babies, right? Some racially ambiguous, close to white children because of your own inferiority complex, women of color. Huh. Now, what I don't want in this respect, and it needs to be said, is for black men in particular to feel defeated. This is not about you feeling defeated. It is about how women of color, once again, have internalized white supremacy, the European beauty standard, right? white masculinity. And then what does that mean for the men of their own race and ethnicity? That's the question. What does it mean when the child bearers of a group in significant, we'll say minority, we'll give them that, but in significant minority, what does it mean when the child bearers of a group hold the men of their own demographic to another demographic's standards and ideas and concepts? When the way status is supposed to look has been dictated by white men. The way education is supposed to look is dictated by white men. The way beauty is supposed to look is dictated by white men. The way strength is supposed to look is dictated by white men. The way masculinity is supposed to look is dictated by white men. Huh. And it was not, and it is not only men of color from around the planet that have internalized these concepts. What we're finding more and more is possibly it's women of color around the planet that have internalized this way more than we would have ever imagined the men did. Huh. These are the people oftentimes that rail against patriarchy also. Meanwhile, I've said it before, meanwhile, they want nothing more than to be with the white soft core patriarch. You know, the white man that has a whole lot because of white patriarchy. So maybe he doesn't overtly exercise this kind of overt, right? Very conscious patriarchy. He's not one of these fronting at the mouth, do as I say type of men. But once again, the patriarchal order is what kind of got him to his position. I guess we would say this is the difference between misogynist and patriarchy, because patriarchy is more of a system, right? But the women want the accoutrement that come from that patriarchy. They want the men that sit on the throne of what white patriarchy built and conquered and raped and took and stole and killed for and slaughtered and bombed, etc., etc. Hmm. Right. So once again, this young lady is a prime example. Then, as Mr. Z said, I said it before, and I know a lot of black men, brothers didn't care in the black manosphere. I understand. I understand why we were saying what we were saying and why we were saying what we were saying the way we were saying it, right? But as I said before, it wasn't just black women that sounded like this. Shout out to the brother Zulu, but yeah, black women were just the loudest, and they were given the microphone by white racist society to sound the way they do. But if you put the microphone in other women of color face for long enough, they sound the same. They sound similar in their own way. They sound similar in their own way. I promise you, Latinas sound the same way. I promise you. I've heard it myself in person. And I'm not talking about no internet stuff. In person. I promise you, Latinas sound the same way. For them, it's more about Latino men's machismo. They anti-Latino men's machismo. By the way, these were the same people, and even Mr. Z got caught up in it for a little while, that were pushing calling Latinos and Latinas Latinx. Those same type of Latinas on colleges and universities using this language because it's a handful of them. And then when you get off that college campus, you realize how much Latinos despise that. Even the Latinas despise that Latinx crap. And they don't really realize that it's a handful of their daughters and sisters that they send into these universities that's using this language to be appealing to what white feminists are talking about. To adhere to what white feminists are talking about. So when we talk about feminism as a weapon, oh yeah, we're gonna prove it more and more. It's gonna be so hard for these people to defend their position. We are going to prove it more and more that what white society has done with feminism, and this was the original goal, what white society has done with feminism is used it to use women of color as the colonizing agent of their respective communities, ethnicities, races, etc., etc. Right? That's funny. Trail said, "Good. No one tried to push blacks." BLAX. Hysterical. Right? And y'all give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Give Mr. Z 1 second. I'll be right with you guys. Give me 1 second. I'm back, everyone. My apologies. I had to do some last minute stuff that I forgot to do yesterday. So, oh, life. Okay. So, um, hmm, let's see, because I had some notes that I definitely wanted to, some points I definitely want to make sure to get. Yeah. So, looking up to Karen, we have to be honest that a lot of these women want to practice their best version of white femininity. And men of their own demographic, they feel, can't offer them that. They want to be Karen. They want to be a Karen. They get off seeing that type of social power. Being an annoying, entitled, nosy white woman who call the cops on innocent, random people who you feel are lesser than you and should know their place, who you see as eyesores, and you flex your social power by bringing in some proxy violence. There are women that get off on that. Why do we think that women don't want power too? Or don't want to flex power also? Why? Because they don't do it the exact same way the men do all the time? There are women of color, they want to be white women. Upper middle class and rich women, they want to practice their best versions of white femininity. And in their minds, only white men can offer them that. They're pretty correct on that one though. You have to know that there are upwardly mobile, upper middle class to rich Asian women who want the white husband, the Hapa kids, and the social and political and economic power that come with being married to that white man. They want the notoriety that comes from being married to that white man. They want the attention that comes from being married to that white man. They want the proxy power and the ability to practice proxy violence that comes from being associated with that white man. Black women want that. Asian women want that. Latina women want that. Indigenous women want that. Now, yes, that same proxy power and proxy violence and economic power is built off of the dead bodies and bones of their ancestors, including their female ancestors. But those women don't care about that. They don't consider it, and they don't care to consider it. In these people's minds, Francis Fukuyama is correct. This is the end of history. White men won, right? Wave the red white flag, and it's over, right? White men won, and it's over. Asian men earn more per capita than any other group in America, particularly South Asian men. But that changed nothing because both East and South Asian women still want and marry the white men because the economic power of Asian men pales in comparison to the power, the social and political power of white men. Even white men that earn less than similarly situated Asian men, because it doesn't matter. You're not white in a white supremacist society on a white dominated country. Excuse me, sorry. White supremacist nation in a white dominated planet. Right? What does concepts of boss girl feminism? We've been talking about boss girl feminism on and off, right? They say it's the end of boss girl feminism. I don't see it yet, but okay, right? What does boss girl feminism look like rate when you race it, when you put race on it, when you put ethnicity and race on it? Is it always going to be a super powerful black woman with a super powerful black man? No. When you put boss girl feminism and race together, you get black women with white men, Asian women with white men, Latina women with white men, indigenous women with white men. That's what you get. It still always comes down to the white man because it was always about the white man, right? Huh. So Phil covers this. What just kidding news. Excuse me, I wanted to say just cutting. Just kidding. News covers it. I watch them occasionally because, yeah, yeah. The just kidding news. let me get in my lefty bag a little bit. There's been a lot of problematic stuff said and done on that show. So, you know, you take that with a grain of salt. But if you want to hear some Asian perspectives, then it's probably one of the most notable places to find it on YouTube, right? I also watched a couple of clips of the Fung brothers covering this for a decade now, give or take, right? This Asian women with white men thing, and it's similar, right? So the rhetoric is always some victim talk. And just like in the black community, you have Asian men denying that this is a thing or thinking, oh, love is love. And, one of the Fung brothers talks about this all the time. No, we just need to grow our confidence. And we need to, you don't know about these. No, man, it's white worship, bro. Take it from the black guy. It's white worship. Get out of your ego. That's all ego talking. No, my masculinity is just as tough as his masculinity, and I'm a man too. And if you just have a good personality and you're funny and you stay in shape and you have good hobbies and yeah, bro, stop. That's your ego talking, right? No, Asian men are no less than stop because we got black men like that too. No, you just get fitted, and yeah, that makes it a little bit easier. But let's be very clear. Currently, on the planet that you're living on, this blue green dot, part of the Milky Way galaxy, rotating around this sun, this star, at least in this era in time, white people got it. And the fallout from that is that the way women see men, white masculinity is the pinnacle of masculinity for most women. Now, some women have been able to fight that. Some women have been able to educate themselves out of that, about thinking about white men a certain way. about feeling about white men a certain way. Some women, lucky for them because of their parents and their background, they never felt a certain way about it anyway. They don't care about what white men got going on. They're not checking for them. There's different women from different backgrounds. They don't care what white men got going on. But I would argue for most women on the planet, the white man is God. Oh, I'm going to hurt some feelings. You have African women talking about, I need me a white man. They got signs talking about, I need me a white man. We saw that meme, the dark skinned sister in Africa with the I got 3 kids and blah blah blah. I'm looking for a white man. Most serious face ever. She's not joking. She's not American. Videos on YouTube of the Indian woman, South Asian Indian woman, true Indian woman, telling you how disgusted she is on how the Indian community like talks about white men, and this the white man that knows, I guess, their equivalent of the 2-step, and he knows a few different curry dishes and different Indian dishes, and the Indian community just holds him up on a pedestal, particularly the women. I told you about the East Asian. I think she was Japanese. She was either Japanese or Chinese. I don't think she was Korean. That Gus T Renegade interviewed, and she told you her grandma told her straight up, "Yeah, I wake up in the morning wishing I was white." We all done see the portrait, the painting in the Latino community of the dark skinned grandma with the praise hands, happy that her mixed light skinned daughter ended up with a white man, and now the child is white. That's it. The child is white. The grandchild, excuse me, is white. We all done seen that picture. I mean that portrait. We all done seen the other portrait of the hierarchy, the racial hierarchy, the racial pyramid scheme in the Latino community, with white at the top, black at the bottom. I think black, indigenous, or whatever, or indigenous somewhere above that. Somewhere above that is some type of mulatto or mestizo mix, right? Mulatto, then mestizo, then fully white, right? Is it only the men that are perpetuating this racial hierarchy? It's only men of color that's perpetuating the racial hierarchy? It's only men of color that are chasing after white women to have some mixed children and to feel better about their humanity? That's what we're saying? Men of color are the only ones that have internalized white supremacy and white European beauty standards and white concepts of everything, right? That's a men of color thing, right? And y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. That's a men of color thing, right? Huh. So yeah. So I'm gonna have to change this title because this is the first half of my conversation. I actually just checked out a well, I didn't check it out all the way, so we'll pause on that. I'll actually cover that a little bit later today or maybe tonight, before I even get to that, because I was gonna start talking about something else and I'm not. I'm not. Mr. Z, pause right there on that one. But yeah, so I just want to come to you guys with that because you know Phil is correct, and it's not. And I saw the brother Indigo Flow comment, I think in there somewhere, and like he said, in the comments for Philip Scott's video on this. Yeah, I'm this whole conversation, I do lose it too, Indigo, when you hear black people say it's only black people. No, y'all just because you don't know other people outside of the black community, right, doesn't mean it's only black people or we do it worse. No, like I said, there was a microphone put in the face of black women to say these things as loud as they say it. I'm not saying that you don't hold them accountable for doing it anyway, But don't ever get it misconstrued and think that these other women of other demographics, other backgrounds aren't on the same foolishness. They on it, right? The only difference is they didn't get hit as hard. So the women still got to be mindful of what they say to a certain extent about men of their demographic. Yes, that includes Jewish women too. Don't get it misconstrued. Yes, East Asian women. Yes, South Asian women. Yes, Black women. Yes, Indigenous women. Let them talk long enough. Penis for many of them, not but for many, right? And it's as less and less men go to college, as less and less men actually graduate college and university, as there might be more and more parity financially between men and women across the board. As these things happen, you're gonna see a real grabbing and scraping, and for white men in particular, but upwardly mobile men also, not just white men, but white men in particular, right? And white society knows. Where do you think you're getting the Bridgertons and all these black queens and black princesses and black princesses not in Africa, not wearing any type of African garb or no, black women speaking like, walking like, acting like some European aristocrat from 200 years ago. Where do you think you're getting that from? Where do you think you're getting crazy rich Asians from? Which are essentially white Brits in Singapore. White Brits in Singapore with almond eyes. This is not to appeal to men. This is not about Asian men or black men. That is a straight appeal to Asian women and black women. This has nothing to do with crazy rich Asians, had nothing to do with no goddamn Asian dudes. That was Asian women's ego. Black men do not care to be some white European dude from 200 and 300 years ago and pretending to be some goddamn white European aristocrat. The last time we really saw that, it really was Drew Hill, These Are the Time music video, and we flamed Drew Hill for a decade about pretty much being Puss in Boots. We ain't let Cisco live that down. Huh. We have to be honest that women of color really want this political project called whiteness. They really want the social and the political power, right? And that's okay. But what you can stop doing is making it seem like the men of your own race and demographic are doing something to you. No, You want to be over there with the white dudes because of your inferiority complex. This has nothing to do with men of color, particularly black men. On this respect, I ain't speaking for no other men of color. This is about black men right now. You want to be over there because of whatever your inferiority complex is in relation to white women and white men, right? I said it before. Just because you couch it differently doesn't mean you don't want the same thing. Or worse, actually, because the numbers are showing more and more men of color ain't chasing after white women. Particularly black men are not chasing after white women, right? But just because you couch why you want to be over there by saying, yeah, the men of my own race are horrible in this way. The men of my own race are doing this wrong thing. They're colorist in this way, or they're texturist or featurist, or they want to be white men. No, you want to be a white woman. You're the one who wants to be white. And it is okay to admit that. Now, what you get after that, well, that's a different conversation. But it's okay to admit that, right? And Big Kev says, and thank you for the super chat. Big Kev says, black women are the few groups that don't worship white women. Oh, excuse me. Black men are one of the few groups that don't worship white women. Well, we don't. And you're absolutely right. We don't. And people don't know how to respond to that. They keep on levying that on us. They keep on trying to put that on us, but we don't. It's not all about the white vagina over here or the non-shapely, non-bubble shaped white ass over here. Shout out to flapjacks and pancakes, right? You get a handful of you get some celebrities that get seen with white women, and all of a sudden, black men worship at the altar of white women. Get out of here. Meanwhile, because you don't see so many white men with black women of note, all of a sudden that means that black women are more loyal to black men than black men are to black women. No, as we've said before, those white dudes just ain't checking. That don't mean you ain't checking, right? And as I said before, a lack of options is not the same as loyalty, right? It's not the same thing, right? And this does have ramifications on your overall society. That's why I brought up the child bearers. When the child bearers have a thing for white dudes, and they're the ones who's really upholding the white standards of everything. Mama, why we have this white Jesus portrait in the middle of the goddamn kitchen? Now y'all know why, right? Now y'all know why. Huh. Harry Halle Berry's character on Monsters Ball doesn't seem so far fetched anymore now, does it? Doesn't seem so far fetched anymore now, does it? Huh. So it's not exclusive to black women, right? This kind of white worship is not exclusive to divestors and swirlers. It's not exclusive to black women, right? And notice what Mr. Z isn't saying. I'm not saying men of, I didn't say non-black. I said white men in particular. I did not say non-black men. I'm saying white men in particular. Black women, Latina women, Asian women, indigenous women have an issue with their skin color, with their background, with their ethnicity, with their culture in comparison to white people, white men, white women. And they feel like they can cleanse themselves of whatever they find wrong with their culture, with their ethnicity, with their race, with their background, with their skin tone, with their hair texture, by being anointed with the white penis on the forehead. Right? You had to know Mr. Z was going to say something vulgar. You had to know. Right? So who truly has the inferiority complex? Who truly is the one adhering to white European beauty standards? We all remember all those Asian girls walking around here with blonde highlights and the blue eye contacts. We remember that. That wasn't too long ago. What you thought black women were the only ones doing that? No, what the Asian girls was doing that too, and the Latinas were doing it too. Honestly, they might not be doing it so much right now, but you rewind about 15-ish years ago, 15, 20 years ago. Oh, all over the place. Black women, Latina women, Asian women, blonde hair, blonde dyed hair with blue eye contacts. Everywhere you went, there was at least one or two. You standing in a line, you're like, God damn. You're in the grocery store, like, what the hell? The real blonde passes by. The real blonde, blue eyed. Then the black girl with the blonde hair and the blue eyes. Then the Asian girl with the blonde hair and the blue eyes. Then the Latina girl with the blonde hair and the blue eyes. You're like, well, follow the leader, I guess. Now, when was the last time y'all saw brothers walking around here with their hair straightened? Who y'all got? Snoop? Well, he already stopped doing that. ASAP? Who? Rocky? Who else? Right? Right? Absolute insanity going on, and everyone's looking at black men. Right? And to a certain extent, excuse me, other men of color. Meanwhile, your daughters worship at the altar of white people, white men, white masculinity. This girl she called Asian dudes evil. She called attractive Asian dudes evil. Her words, right? She called attractive Asian dudes evil. So, in the black community, we say, um, black men don't build, right? Okay, well let's go on the black men that black women claim they want, right? The sought after black men. Um, they chase after white women. They're secretly gay. Um, right? They don't build, they don't protect, they don't provide, they're poor. Okay, cool. So the Asian women can't use the poor so much. They can't use the don't build so much. So they tell you the attractive Asian dudes are just evil, right? And Detroit said, well, that's not our fault when they experienced racism. And better yet, how come they think Willie Lynch? Well, here you go. It's a question that I've posed a couple times now. And I think Shay Sade also, not even I think, I know Shay Sade covered this also. Is 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 the only time, at least for black women, is the only time they see racism when they're denied by white men? Is that the only time they see anti-blackness? Is when they walk into a bar and they walk into a bar and none of the heads turn their way, including the white man's, particularly the white man's, right? If you're speaking about experiencing racism, Detroit, maybe this is the one place that women of color are truly experiencing, anti whatever, anti blackness, anti Asian, or whatever. We're not even truly anti Asian because we know how high that marriage rate, that interracial marriage rate is for Asian women. But I guess for a few of them, for the white guys that truly are all about white men, excuse me, for the white guys that are truly all about white people, which by the way is still most white men. I guess Asian women feel a certain way about that. Definitely black women feel a certain way about that. Latina women feel a certain way about that. So maybe that's the only time they really feel that anti whatever, anti Asian, anti black, anti Latino or whatever. Right? Huh. As I said when I was speaking about Chrissy maybe a week ago, maybe yeah, about a week ago, just because it takes you no 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 no. That was Ostefco. That it took 30 minutes to get to the point where it took Obsidian about three on feeling unattractive or not being desired by the type of people from the opposite sex that they find desirable, right? It took Obsidian 3 minutes. It took Ostefco like 20 something, 30 minutes. What is Mr. Z saying? Because you say it differently, because it takes you eternity to get to the damn point, doesn't mean you're not saying the same thing. Often worse, but doesn't mean that you're not saying the same thing. Just because you try to mitigate for it sounding cringeworthy, just because you know it's going to sound like you have an inferiority complex because you do, and you try to speak around that and try to mitigate for it and try not to get right to the point, doesn't mean you're not saying the same thing. Once again, if not worse, right? And Namer says, don't forget about South Asian women. Oh, yeah, we already went in on Mindy Kaling because Mindy Kaling said the same thing, right? Mindy Kaling said the same thing. And the white dude that made her a baby mama. in every show she plays on, or every show she writes, or every show she voiceover, and she's the, the not director, but the editor of this, or whatever the hell. She's leading the project. Somehow, white penis is involved. White men in their validation, somewhere, somehow, it's going to be involved. Right? Of course. Huh. And as Phil said, it's something about white masculinity. These women of color, when they got a thing for the white dudes, it's something about chasing after the white guy that brings out the most anti whatever they are. Whether they're Asian, it brings out the worst anti Asian in them. If they're black, it brings out the worst anti black in them. If they're Latina, it brings out the worst anti Latino community, go Latino in them. Right? It's something about that. And Namer says, what about First Nation Native American women? From my understanding, Native American women are married outside their race at like 60+%. I think last time I saw it, I thought it was like a dumb number, like 63%, something retarded, right? And we gotta know it's mainly to white dudes. Y'all gotta know it gotta be the white dudes, right? That one we kind of give a pass to because we know how small their numbers are, right? To a certain extent, people don't really follow that too much because we know how small their numbers are. We understand the history and the background. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Asian women excuse me, not Asian women. Indigenous first, well, y'all call it First Nation. That's more like Canadians say that also. I think Europeans say First Nation and stuff like that. We just call them either Indians, Native Americans. I started calling them more indigenous folks a few years ago because I find indigenous folks take to that more, right? Instead of just calling Native Americans because they were here before there was even a concept of America. So indigenous is, at least for me and the way I see them take to it, more respectful. But either way, indigenous women, last time I checked, was somebody, anybody got access to the internet real quick, y'all could fact check me. Last time I checked, it was some stupid number like 60 some odd percent, right? So yeah, it's about the white penis at the end of the day. What do we think? Meanwhile, these same people are telling you, oh, no gender norms and no this and no, we're trying to get away from that and we don't want patriarchy and no gender norms. And why do we think only men should lead and male leadership and everybody, y'all all talking this and then y'all all chasing after the white dudes, right? Anti patriarchy, anti misogyny, campaigns about anti fat shaming, right? We don't want you to fat shame this, and we need makeup that shows our skin tone, and da da da. And y'all chasing after the white guys that could give a F less, right? Huh? Chasing after the white guy, wanting the validation of the white guy, right? All this skin bleaching cream all over the global south, lightning cream everywhere you go. Huh? For the women. Do men put on lightning cream sometimes? Yes. It's always interesting when they say, "No, we're trying to appeal to the men of our own race because they're the ones that's color struck." Meanwhile, right? Lightning cream in East Asia, I don't know. Y'all want to be see through. If you're East Asian and you're putting on lightning cream, you want to be see through, right? So let me get this right. East Asians, lightning cream. Southeast Asians, lightning cream. South Asians, lightning cream. Africans, lightning cream. Africans in the Caribbean, lightning cream. The whole goddamn continent of South America, lightning cream. Central America, lightning cream. People of color in North America, lightning cream. People of color in Europe, lightning cream. What the hell? I guess the Arabs are the only one because technically they're white. They're not wasp, but I guess they're white, so they don't really use lightning cream. Anybody have any info on the Persians? Right? Absolutely ridiculous. But these people tell you, and like this young lady said, oh, the attractive Asians, they're evil. The attractive Asian men, they're evil. Yeah, that's it. Huh. So on that note, everybody, you know, we'll pause right here. I'm going to attempt to come to you guys later this afternoon, probably after Roger's stream. Um, something I want to cover with Real Talk with Yanni, speaking about, and she did this a few days ago. I'm getting to some of my older stuff that I've either watched or listened to, but I just had other things that I wanted to cover that I thought were more pressing. But she covered the story of Gabrielle Union and D Wade and that whole 50-50 thing, and yeah. Right. So we there's a lot going on here. I pretty enjoy this internet, this web, right? Because we no longer have to go through white media and white publications to get our stories out, to give our piece, to give our take, etc., etc. Trell, I ain't messing with you, Trell. I ain't messing with you, Trell. Right? But there's so much information out there. There's so much information out there. I am, especially in my younger years, I'm from the era where you had to go to the library or go dust off some old encyclopedia, right? Or pick up a dictionary. Now it's at your fingertips on your phone, all this information, and people are talking so reckless. You borderline, we're almost getting to the point where you won't even have to read anymore. We're pretty much at the point where you won't even have to read anymore. And yet the ignorance is astounding. Because not only do people not know, they don't care to know, but they're still so opinionated. And on that note, that's my little tidbit, for what I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, so we'll truly pause right here. Right? Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. Right? For the love of God, no pause right here. All right, Mr. Z out. All right, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day.